Clutter is the physical manifestation of unmade decisions fueled by procrastination. Christina Scalise. That is one of my favorite quotes when it comes to clutter because it's so true. All these things that we've brought into our house, these physical items, the excess that we bring into our house, and then we find that they don't actually bring us the peace, the happiness, the calm that we thought that they should. Today is the day that we are going to take our homes back and we are going to get rid of 50 or more things in our home that we just don't use, don't need, and that are causing us more stress. Clutter is a vicious cycle that once you step back and look at it, you realize the beast that it has become. Often I feel like I had blinders on up to my clutter. I knew I was unhappy. I knew I was stressed and overwhelmed in my home, but I just couldn't figure out what to do about it. So I'm going to go room by room just to lay out a real plan for you to declutter things in every room of your house. So let's start with our kitchen. The first thing I want you to look for are duplicates of items. How many wooden spoons do you have? How many bottle openers or how many pizza cutters do you have? If you have a huge excess because people have given you things or you forgot you had them, then go through now and pick out just your very favorites. The next thing in your kitchen I want you to look for are appliances that are either broken, just not working the way you need them to, or they haven't been used and they're covered in dust. If you have items that you only use once every several years, see if there is a friend or a family member that you can reach out to who probably has that same appliance, but maybe using it a lot more than you do. The great thing about minimalism is that it can push you to create community, that you may have things that other people need and vice versa. The next thing I want you to look for in your kitchen are mugs and cups, plates and bowls. How much excess do you really need? The rule that we follow in our house is that we have enough for us plus a few extra for friends. There is no need for our cabinets to be stuffed full with things that we don't even use. If you have a complete cabinet full of cups, do you have those ones in the way back that you never ever reach for? Those are the ones I want you to start with. Now let's move on to spices. When you're opening up your spice cabinet or drawer, are there things that are crusty and old that you can easily see getting rid of? Those ones that you maybe tried and they just didn't work for what you liked. Those are the ones I want you to get rid of today. Now, while you're over there in your pantry, I want you to also look for food that you haven't been eating when it comes to non-perishable foods, cans. Are there soups that you thought you would try, you bought excess, and now you realize you just don't like them? Look for expired food way back in the back of your pantry and start pulling that stuff out. Sure, there are several food pantries near you that you can donate food that is still good. Another thing that will revolutionize and make your life so much easier when you are putting meals away or you're making lunches is your Tupperware. What I like to do personally is I match the bottom with the lid. But in order to do that, you need to cut down the excess. Do not keep anything that is misshapen or doesn't have the correct lid, thinking that eventually you may find it is not the answer. We all know that those things get stuffed in the way back, and no, the lid has disappeared, and for whatever reason, the lid fairy is not going to give it back. Another big hitter, which is something I recently just did, if you watched in my other videos, is I did a food declutter, a kitchen declutter, and in there I got rid of a lot of condiments. I feel like often we get condiments or people will even give them to me and they get brought into my house and then they're things that we just don't use. At least we don't use enough where it's something that we need to keep in our fridge. So while you are doing this declutter in your kitchen, I also want you to do a very quick survey of things that are just misshapen or broken. What gadgets do you have that are just not working out the way you thought they should? The can opener doesn't really open the cans anymore, or it's just too hard, or there are things in your kitchen that are falling apart. Those things, it's time to let them go. All right, now let's move on to our bathroom. The first thing I want you to grab are any kind of toiletries like shampoos and conditioners and soaps that you just don't like. Maybe you tried a shampoo in the past, you put it away in the closet because you didn't like it, and there it's been. Instead of throwing them out, what you can do with shampoo and conditioners is that you can bring them to different areas, like maybe where you store your things to wash your cars, and you can use them to get rid of stains on your clothes. So moving them out of where they've just been sitting and start putting them where you can actually use them more often. Of course, I feel like most of us have some expired makeup, our makeup that we just don't like that much. I recently just got rid of an eyeshadow that I had been hanging on to for a long time just because it was one of the only eyeshadows that I had. But I just didn't like it. So finally, I ended up getting rid of it and throwing it away. It was old anyway. Also, I feel like it's a great idea to start going through your medication and your supplements. Are there vitamins that are expired? Are there different kinds of medications that you tried and maybe you just didn't like, or you switched to something new? Hanging on to those things is never a great idea. And if it is a prescription drug, there are places like the hospital that you can go and take them and get rid of them safely. Something that I used to be very guilty about is keeping way too many of those travel toiletries. So while my husband and I, we love to travel whenever possible, often I have found, especially recently, that we usually just stay in Airbnbs. And every Airbnb that we went through Copenhagen and Sweden and Italy, every single one had shampoo and conditioner, had soap. It's amazing when you travel now that often these kind of things you just don't need to bring with you. They know that you're coming from far away, most likely, and that keeping those liquids is a hassle. It really taught me that hanging on to those tiny toiletries just isn't necessary. Now, if we continue on and looking in our linen closet, I want you to look for old pillowcases or old sheets. I recently just got rid of one that had a hole in it, so it was all stretched out. Often these are the places that our clutter hides in these closets, and we hang on to pillowcases and sheets just because. Also, look for any pillows that you just haven't been using. So as we go towards our bedroom, look on your beds and see, are there really old pillows that just kind of flop over or ones that aren't comfortable? Sleep is so extremely important that even missing 1 extra hour of the sleep that you normally get, the next day when you go to work, you're going to be significantly less productive, even by losing an hour. So if you are sleeping on a bed that's extremely uncomfortable or a pillow that's extremely uncomfortable, it is something that is worth your time, your energy, and money to find something that works for you. All right, so now that we're in our bedrooms, let's look in our closets and let's pull out those random one socks that have been hanging around in our drawer forever, but we have no idea where the other one has gone. If you've already looked under your bed and behind the washer and dryer and it's not there, then let's just picture that it is gone. It has moved on, and let's get rid of those extra socks. On top of that, let's get rid of those underwear and bra that are either stretched out, they're in the back of the drawer, we don't like wearing them. If it is something like a bra or pair of underwear or socks even that we just don't really like, they keep scrunching up, they're not comfortable, but we hang on to them just in case one day we might need them. Today, I'm telling you that it is okay to get rid of them, and it is okay to only have undergarments and socks that fit you and feel good. Also, let's talk about shoes. So if you have a pair of shoes that are just not comfortable, maybe they always cause sores on your feet when you wear them. So they're always the last pair of shoes if you can't find anything else that you're going to wear, or you never feel like you can match them with any of your clothes. They just don't fit with the clothes that you have in your closet. Now is the time to donate them and give them to someone who can really enjoy them. Also, the same thing goes for belts. If you are a belt person, you deserve to only have belts that fit you and feel good on your body. For me, I only have one. Occasionally, I like to dress up my outfits a little bit more, and I do feel like a belt kind of brings things together. But what I found is that one black belt with a little gold buckle is all of the jazz and pizzazz that I really need. On top of that, I only have one purse. Now, I'm not saying that is going to be the right message for everybody, but I'm the kind of person who I don't change my purse. I never was that kind of person, but I collected purses often because I thought that's what I was supposed to do in case I need them. But if you have any purses now that you just have not used for over a year now or 6 months, then it is now time to let them go and let somebody else really enjoy those purses. So now let's travel on to our living rooms. And the first thing I want you to look for is, are you a magazine person? So if around your house you see a lot of magazines, maybe you're still somebody who gets subscriptions to magazines. I know several people that still do. It's time to declutter those. Often you can give them to the library, but if you want to save a little extra money, what my mom and I do now mostly is we go and get our magazines from the library. They often have subscriptions to them. And so while you might not get the latest and most up-to-date magazine, you will be able to find many different varieties there for free. Another big thing to get rid of is outdated technology. And I know if you're like me, often I'll get nervous getting rid of technology, thinking that what if the new thing I got ends up breaking or I need something off of that computer. But if you do your due diligence in the beginning and you get all your photos and the information you need off and you download it onto the cloud, then you don't have to worry about that other piece of technology going away. I also have just found that even though I have this fear of getting rid of them, I never go back and use them anyway. So if you are like me, give yourself a few months to just get used to the new piece of technology, a new phone or the new tablet or the new computer, and then go ahead and declutter the old one. So this one probably should have gone with bedroom, but also if you have any jewelry that is broken or you just don't wear it. I was very much a big jewelry girl growing up, but now basically all I wear are these one pair of hoop earrings. These are my favorite, and I wear them almost every single day. I also have staple pieces of jewelry on my hands. I have one small gold ring that I always wear, and of course my wedding ring that I wear all of the time. But besides that, I don't own a whole lot more. And that's because I've just realized that that is not something that I put a lot of time and value into. And so only keeping those pieces that I know I wear on a semi-regular basis has really been able to clear out a lot of the excess. And as you're going through maybe the closets in your living room or maybe your desk area, I want you to look for old greeting cards and note cards. If you are somebody who loves sending cards and sends them very often and diligently, then go ahead and hang on to all your favorites. But if you're like me, often I would have gotten a bunch of greeting cards in the hopes that I would send them and then often forgot. So these past couple years, I just haven't sent Christmas cards. I will call people, and occasionally for 2 or 3 people, I know I might send a card. But for the majority of people that I know, I just don't send cards. It's not something that I am going to have the bandwidth to do. And I've gone ahead and taken that stress of feeling like I always needed to send out all these very personable cards with our pictures on it, and it cost a lot of money. And so I went ahead and took that stress off of my back and that anxiety off of my back. And I just will send a few people cards, but mostly I'll just send them phone calls and see them in person. And I do feel like it's one of those stressors that I was putting on myself. No one else was giving me anxiety or pressure about it. It was only myself. And of course, while you're in your living room, I want you to look around at the furniture that you have around you. Do you have a lot of excess furniture pieces? What I started with in our living room was getting rid of the excess small tables that I had around. So any kind of plant table that I just wasn't using for my plants or any kind of side table that I just felt was taking up too much room. I decluttered around 90% of all of the tables that are in our house, and it really has opened up a lot of free space. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Remember that if you like learning about minimalism and decluttering, then hit that subscribe button. And of course, please throw a heart emoji down below if you are in a decluttering, organizing journey with us here on Minimal Ease. But keep hanging on because the last few are very important. But the next thing that I would get rid of are if you just have picture frames or you have artwork that you haven't hung or you can't find the right place for it. I know often when it comes to pictures and artwork, we get very easily attached to these things, or we have a memory that is attached to them. And so we don't want to get rid of them. But if you really don't have a place in your house where you feel like that piece of artwork shines, then it's time to go ahead and give it to somebody else or declutter it. All right, moving on more towards our desk and office space. The first thing I want you to look for is, where do you keep your bills and receipts? Go through your bills and receipts. If it's something that you've already paid, you don't need those bills anymore. Go ahead and tear them up and get rid of them. But if it is a receipt, what I will say about receipts is that often now in a lot of places like Lowe's and Home Depot and Target, they can look it up by your card. But also, I know personally for us, we have an account with Lowe's, not a credit card account, just an account with our email. And so when we buy something, you can say, do you want a receipt, or do you want a receipt and an email, or just an email? And often we'll just send it to email so we don't have to have the paper copy. But if the paint or the tool doesn't work out the way we need to, it's already in our email. So we don't need to keep that hard copy. Also look for broken or unused pens and pencils. I know often we get very excited about buying new pens, at least I do, and I will keep a lot of excess. But what I have found is that often I only need 2 or 3 different kinds of pens, and any more than that, it's just clutter. So I'll buy pens in a much smaller amount, and I'll only keep a few at a time. I don't know how many of us are still keeping textbooks or workbooks, but my mom recently told me about how my dad had been keeping his old textbooks from when he went to physical therapy school for years. And finally, my mom had gotten him to get rid of them because they were anatomy books. They were very expensive books when he first bought them. But what we realized is that the majority of that stuff is either at the library or it is online. And so really having that massive, huge book was not that helpful. Do you have any other office supplies that are just not working for you? Like maybe Post-its that don't stick very well, you got the cheaper version, or maybe your stapler is just not functioning the way you need to. Those are another place that you can go ahead and get rid of a lot of excess things that are just not working up to what you need them to. Something I recently just got rid of was an old agenda. I know it's one of those things that often we can forget about having these excess agendas, or we start collecting them because we see cute ones when we go out. But my mom actually had an extra agenda, and so she gave me a new one because mine had run out. And so I went ahead and I switched over the calendars. I put the dates that I had in my old agenda into my new one, and then I went ahead and recycled the last one. On the same lines, if you have extra stationery that you haven't been using, or notepads that you haven't been using, there are lots of places that you can donate those to, whether it's just your local thrift store, or if you can find a teacher. A lot of times when I was teaching, it was great to have some extra stationery for my kids. And then let's move on to our attics, or maybe a storage area that you have, like a shed or a garage. And let's look for tools that are unused or broken. How many hammers do you really need, or how many drills or screwdrivers do you really need in your house? That's a question that often I will ask my husband, but his answer is a lot more than mine, and that's totally fine. But I want you to look through what you have, and if things just aren't working, maybe the battery is dead, go ahead and declutter those out of your house. Another thing that can really add up very quickly is when you are painting your house, are you keeping all the excess paint? We do like to hang on to a little bit of paint, like primers that we have. We will hang on to them because often we will paint off and on throughout the years. But when it comes to keeping half of a can of spray paint or a ton of old half can stains, go ahead and declutter those, because often I found that by the time that I want to spray paint something again, I want either a different color or that can is just really old. Also, a great place to start when you're in this storage area is your holiday decorations. So what I like to do with holiday decorations is often when that holiday is over, I will look through the box and see the things that I just haven't used. Can I imagine myself using them the next year? If not, I will go ahead and declutter them then. And also look for sporting equipment. Are there sports that maybe you used to do, like field hockey or pickleball, that you just haven't been able to pick up anymore? Maybe you had an injury, or maybe it's something that you just lost interest in. Go ahead and donate those sporting equipment, because those do take up a lot of space that you could be using for something else. And something that I've gotten a lot better at over the years is getting rid of gifting supplies. So whether it's ribbons or bows or a lot of wrapping paper, all the gift bags that we end up getting, what I have is I have one basket that I will keep my gift wrapping stuff in. And if I have excess over that after Christmas or birthdays, I will go ahead and declutter the excess. but I know I always have a small handful of bags and gift wrapping paper that I need. But really, besides that basket, besides that home that I keep it in, I just don't need more than that. So when you are thinking about gifting supplies, create a home for them. Figure out where you're going to put them. And maybe the space that you're giving them is just too big. See if you can declutter a little bit more of it. All right, guys, we are almost done. But the next one that I want you to get rid of is any kind of rain gear that you haven't been using. We live in Virginia, and so very often it will be rainy and then sunny and then rainy again, and you never know. The weather is insane where I live. But having broken umbrellas or umbrellas that the front flips down and doesn't work very well is infuriating. Just recently, I had borrowed one of my mom's umbrellas. I'd hopped out of the car and I could not get it open. And then when I tried to get back in the car, I couldn't close it. And so I ended up getting more wet than if I just had no umbrella and I had run for it. So having those things that we think are going to help us, but then in the moment, like an umbrella, it isn't working up to the standard that it needs, is not going to help us, and is really just clutter. This next one is one of my absolute favorite things that we have changed over in our house, and that is batteries. If you have a lot of excess batteries that are one-use batteries and they are old or broken or corroded, go ahead and get rid of them. But now when you are buying new batteries, I want you to get the rechargeable ones, which I will link the ones that we have below. But we have had our rechargeable ones for years now, and they have worked amazingly well. You always know you have a battery and you know you can easily recharge them. So if you've watched this channel before, you know that I have two dogs, Biscuit and Blue, and they need their own pet supplies. But what we will do is, as we notice that the dogs are not using certain things, we will go ahead and declutter them and either give them to the pet shelter or to a Goodwill. But we only keep a small amount in a small basket for our dogs. Our older dog doesn't really use any toys anymore anyway, but our younger dog does like to have a few. All right, so as we're continuing looking through like storage areas where we might be keeping things, are there toys in your daughter or son's room or maybe in your attic that you've been saving and hanging on to, but they are gathering dust, so you're just not using them, your kids aren't using them anymore? Go ahead and declutter them. What I found is that I did not get inherited any toys from when I was growing up. They all got used up and we loved them as kids and we were hard on our toys. But I don't walk around being sad that I didn't get any toys from my childhood. Often I feel like we put a lot of sentimental value on things because we experience them where the next generation just might not have them. Now, I'm not saying you have to get rid of all of them, but if you are hanging on to a massive amount of toys and you feel like you need to give those to your next generation, to your children or your grandchildren, I just wouldn't put that much pressure on yourself or on them to take those kind of things because you just don't know if they're even going to want them. So unless you are using them and you are desiring them and you are getting a lot of joy from them, don't worry about hanging on to so much. Also, when it comes to craft supplies, if you are anything like me, we love to craft. And so my daughter and I will craft often, but what I have found is that when we are done doing a craft, usually there's a lot of little pieces of excess that don't necessarily make anything in general. And so I will declutter a lot of the excess little scraps and pieces. Like if there's two googly eyeballs left, I will go ahead and declutter them, or just little scraps of paper, I will declutter them. I used to hang on to everything, but when you do hang on to everything, often when you start a new project, you don't even want those tiny little puffballs that you hung on to from last time. So if it actually amounts to something, go ahead and donate it to a kid's school. I know lots of art teachers love to gather those kind of supplies, but you hanging on to them forever and not having a actual plan for them is going to just create a lot of clutter very quickly. Also, I want you to look through your storage boxes. So I have over the years decluttered a ton of stuff. Between 80 and 90% of the things in our house I have decluttered. So there was a lot of storage boxes that are just empty. But instead of hanging on to them forever and trying to find a way to use them, I have decluttered them. So going through your stuff, decluttering your stuff just means that you're also going to be able to declutter some of those excess boxes. When we keep the excess boxes, I feel like it's a message to our brain that we have something we need to fill. So when you declutter them, it's one less thing that your brain feels like you need to fill. And also, if you have seen the walkthrough of my living room, I only have 2 decorative pillows. I'm not someone who enjoys switching out decorative pillows per season, but I know a lot of people are. So if you enjoy doing that and you have a lot of excess, go through your decorative pillows that you use on your couches and decide if it's something that you use this year. Is it still in good condition? Does it still look good? Did you enjoy having it out? If so, then go ahead and keep them. Maybe put them in those storage bags that squish them up so that they don't take up so much room. But if they are not, or if they are starting to be worn out, go ahead and declutter those. Also, looking through your cleaning supplies, I recently just had one of you wonderful people ask me about how I managed to have a few cleaning supplies. And what I will say is that I have my own spray bottle now, and I use a powder that I'll pour into water that is a multi-purpose cleaning solution. I also have my favorite mop that I have a floor cleaner in for all of our hardwood floors. And then finally, I have some microfiber towels that my mother-in-law gave me a few years ago. I know microfiber is made out of plastics, and so I wouldn't buy them again, but I am going to use them up until I can't possibly use them anymore because they're great for my windows. And so I don't even have a necessary window spray because when you wet this rag, it does an amazing job cleaning the windows. In the bathroom, the only extra thing that I have is I will have my own spray bottle and I'll mix a little bit of Clorox bleach with water. I think it's 1 to 2, something like that. And I will spray down to kill mildew. But I keep it relatively pretty simple when it comes to cleaning supplies around my house. All right, last 2. So the next one is if you have any outdated apps. So if you're somebody who likes to have a lot of apps on your phone, maybe you have a lot of like camera apps or apps for food, your diet, or apps for walking or tracking your water. There are a lot of them that now you can compress all into one. I am using a food app that tracks the amount of food that I am eating. I will link it down below. I can't remember right now. I think it's called Net Meals or something like that, but I'll go ahead and link that for you so you can use it because it's free. They're not sponsoring any part of this video. It's just a free app that I do enjoy on my phone. But I've gotten rid of a lot of the extra ones or the ones that might cost money because it's not something that I'm going to invest in right in this minute. And then finally, and lastly, any hangers. Hangers are one of those things that can easily pile up and can look very cluttered in your home, especially if you have a lot of mismatch different kinds of hangers. So find one kind of hanger that you really enjoy. Personally, for me, I like wooden hangers. I even have a few that have the little notches at the end so your clothes don't fall right off. But I have found that those are my favorite, and aesthetically, I think they look the best. If you like the velvet ones or you like the plastic ones, go for it. But get them so that they look the same. It's going to make your closet look a lot more put together without actually doing anything. All right, friends, so that was everything. I hope you enjoyed this 50 item or category list that I just gave for you. And remember that clutter is the manifestation of unmade decisions fueled by procrastination. Get up, get moving today. Even if you're just finding one thing, it's going to be better than not doing anything. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you can get my next video, and I will see you guys very soon.